Okay, so, evening all. Um, doing a briefish one tonight. For some reason, I'm feeling like I need to record something. Um, I don't know whether it's because it's just this week is proving to be, well, the start of this week coming up is proving to be a complicated one. There's a lot going on. And because, following a couple of discussions with people, I kind of feel the slight need to explain why, for anyone that sees me on Twitter, why I'm not always super perky. Oh, by the way, I seem to have a hell of a lot of spots right now. You probably can't see, but I feel the need to actually also point those out. Yeah. So, I'll do the briefest summary. Okay. So, about a year ago, a year and a half, my uncle, who's also my guardian, who I'm also now kind of guardian to, had a series of mini strokes called TIAs at about the same time that the whole big NHS strokes campaign came out. In fact, it was parallel to it. Which is quite tricky because we're a year and a half on. He has he's improved a heck of a lot, but not completely thanks to the NHS. Because when he initially got ill and observed it going on, he wasn't actually treated in the 3-hour window that the NHS were saying in that campaign was supposed to happen. I've since found out why, and kind of puts my doubts in the NHS. No offence to anyone that works within the NHS, but the system is a little bit screwy, and I hope it doesn't get worse under the new government. Because at the time of his treatment, he was in A&E for over 8 hours, I think it was in the end. Not actually being treated at that point, just repeatedly being reassessed by different doctors to add to his confusion at the time. Now, the reason why I'm explaining this is because I'm now, this week, my uncle has surgery on cataracts. So we now have to deal with hospitals again. Something that he doesn't like and neither do I like. So, for me, it's causing great anxiety. For my uncle, who's looked after me, by the way, since I was about 2, which is also a long story, which I'll briefly outline in a moment. But yeah, he has a massive bundle of complications that could happen, and I, unbelievably or not, am quite anxious to add on to the current anxieties that I have in my life, including the fact that I can't actually technically allow myself to get ill because I'm the only person that actually visits him. So anyone that's in the ATC who knows my uncle would really appreciate a visit at some point, because he's put in 40 odd years, dedicated 40 or more years of his life, long-term service, has a certificate from the Queen, in fact, to mark that long-term service, and yet he's not being seen by anyone who he knows other than me. Which is quite tough on both of us, because he probably gets bored senseless sometimes with me, because I can sometimes only natter on about what's happened at work, and a few other bits, because you kind of fit into a cycle, which gets quite hard. Really hard, in fact, because if you get ill, anyone that has someone that's in care will probably be aware of this, but especially if you're like a lone relation who's the main person that's visiting, and the person that you have either has some short-term memory issues, or inconsistent memory issues. So sometimes they'll be really lucid and really know exactly what's going on, and know exactly when you last visited. Then another time, if they're having a bad day, they won't. You'll know that if you live too long gap because you've gone down ill, that relative might not quite understand. They might not know the time frame that you've been out for, but you'll know, and you'll want to be there but can't, which puts a lot of extra stress on you. Puts an unbelievable amount of extra stress. So projects get put aside, you drag yourself up when you're feeling knackered, and then aren't actually able to speak to the person that you're visiting. And then you end up making yourself worse. Naturally, they end up getting a grumpy person visiting them. So yeah, it's a tiny explanation of that. It's very hard. This is partly why I don't post that much on here, because sometimes you aren't quite ready to be in front of a camera, because life's complications can get a wee bit too much. So, however, right now is a time when I feel that I need to explain things, because some people can bounce along on Twitter without any problems. Now, there's various reasons why people do that. Sometimes it's escapism. Sometimes it's because they're perfectly bouncy all the time. But this can't be the case all the time. I'm sure people have crap days and don't necessarily want to declare it on Twitter. I like going into Twitter, like many people, but I don't feel the need that I have to shield off entirely how I'm feeling on a particular day if I'm going on Twitter, because I'm partly using it as a chat zone, and playing around on it, but sometimes it's a bit honest for me and good on these things, which not everyone can completely take. So apologies on that. If you're one of the people that can't quite take the not so perky side of me, that it's quite hard. Because quite frankly, at the moment, life isn't quite where I expected it to be. Most people kind of have a life plan. Mine have been screwed up a couple of times. For various reasons, largely illness, unfortunately. And again, for some of you that have seen me on Twitter, you might have actually seen me explain this. I have had chronic fatigue syndrome in my past. it's something that slightly haunts me. I'm sure it slightly haunts some other people that have had it before. I've had it 4 times, just to make matters worse. And I have moments where I have horrible notions that maybe it's coming back. Because I get repeat symptoms that I used to get before. You know, if you're someone that's had ME, you'll know about this. Energy can be a terrible thing. Some days it can give you a massive boost. Some days you can have absolutely no battery, like a crappy phone that's not been charged up for quite some time, even if you're charging it with the right food and everything else. I'm getting that again, which frankly worries the hell out of me. Because the last time I had this, I was out of action for about 7 to 8 years. And had a ton of complications as a result. Although I did manage to get a degree off within, God, I think it was about 6 or 7 years overall in 2 different colleges. Which proves you can do these things if you give yourself an ultimatum to either complete a degree, whether you're crawling on your hands and knees or not, if you've got that slight possibility that you could. However, and probably as a result of that, I'm not quite where I thought I'd be. I wasn't quite where I thought I'd be about 5 or 6 years ago, after I came out with a degree. Still not quite there because you have to pay the bills, and I haven't quite been in the right place at the right time, I believe, so far. Maybe I need to check myself into the right place at the right time, some point down soon. Because I'm not doing my creative stuff. I'm doing bits. I sketch, and I do RCA postcard, secret postcard auction. What I'd like to be doing right now, which I've probably said on one of my other YouTube things, I think, is photography or painting or painting. Something creative. I've not got specifics because I have many different disciplines that I can do. Some slightly more obscure ones like bookbinding, which is a bit of a strange one if in this day and age. Slightly strange one to still be able to do, but I do it. And knitting, which again lots of people go, ooh, you're 30 something, why on earth would you want to be knitting? I make stuff, I've always made stuff. My mum used to make stuff, which is why my uncle is also my guardian, because she passed away of breast cancer when I was 2. But weirdly, I have some of a slight legacy in terms of crafts and art stuff, and also looking ridiculously like her, which is kind of a boon and a slightly haunting thing sometimes. It's also a very difficult one to explain to a lot of people. I've always had to explain it to pretty much anyone that's ever met me, because the dynamics of my family are incredibly strange. Not completely strange, but I don't know whether I've got any brothers or sisters. Really don't know. Or I have a dad who never met, but I've had mysterious calls from in my past. Used to have one photo of him. Have no idea where that's gone now, but I've had some weird